If you haven't seen the movie Tetris on Apple TV Plus, I invite you to watch it. And it's very interesting because it's quite true. Tetris has a long legal mess of intellectual property, and let's get into it. Tetris started in 1979 in Russia by Alexei Pajitnov, and he was interested in selling the game in order to get out of Russia. But that wasn't allowed in Russia. Intellectual property is very different around the world. On the one hand, in the US, it's considered a monopoly. In Russia, since it was a communism at the time, it wasn't even allowed to be sold in order for a person to profit off of it because it was associated with creating individual wealth. And he still did it through selling floppy disks and then CDs and then electronic form. Then it comes at the start of the legal battles. Microsoft and Spectrum Holobyte wanted to offer millions of dollars to Pajitnov, Rogers, and the Stanks. They would hire a lot of programmers to overhaul the game to retrofit it to the Atari because the Tetris was originally built for computers and to make millions, and they did. But a new player enters into the game called Nintendo and the flight to Japan. Nintendo was super interested in Tetris because it was going to be a huge hit. Hank proposed to replace Super Mario Land with Tetris as being the first game sold with the Game Boy. Then came out Super Mario Land, which was something that was innovative at the time because it wasn't an exclusive Nintendo game. It was somebody else's game. Atari believed that they had the legitimate copy of Tetris when in fact they had an illegal copy of Tetris and could not use that version of Tetris in their Ataris and ended up being their own version of it. And finally, Nintendo won the legal battle. Since they lost that legal battle, they eventually closed in 1992, filing for bankruptcy. And those Tetris versions are now worthless. Pajitnov and Rogers, their relationship changed because Pajitnov eventually was able to get out of Russia and could get more hands-on efforts on removing the unauthorized versions of Tetris. But this was like a decade's efforts of removing and him getting out of Russia. And these versions, since it spanned from a decade, spanned from since it began to the apps of today. Eventually in 2002, they were able to remove all of the unauthorized versions. In 2005, Electronic Arts was able to license Tetris. Also, Pop Games was also able to license Tetris. And finally, in 2020, 50% of Tetris is owned by Blue Planet Software. And that's the whirlwind of Tetris.